So today we're going to be answering the question of which Halloween film has the best autumn season vibes, in my opinion. What's up guys, Reapshow here. This is Halloween, the season of Michael Myers. I'm going to be ranking the overall autumn season aesthetic in each Halloween film in the Halloween franchise from the worst to the best. Now this is a ranking of the Halloween, autumn, fall season aesthetic in each film. This is not a franchise ranking, but with that being said, I would say to have an effective Halloween film, you kind of have to nail that autumn season aesthetic. So without further ado, let's get into this list here. At the very bottom of the barrel, number 13, Halloween H2O. Now, I understand that this film is supposed to be set in California. It's not actually in Haddonfield. You get the opening that's set in Illinois, in Langdon, Illinois. I'm assuming this is close in proximity to Haddonfield. So it does have that aesthetic in the beginning, but it's very short and you don't get a whole lot of it. I think that it's effective. I really do, especially the fact that they have the Halloween 6 mask in the beginning. The one moment that they actually nailed the mask right in that film. And they get Marion Chambers briefly, right? So there's stuff there that actually has that Halloween DNA in it, but it's just so short-lived. And then they move to California, and that's kind of where it gets away from that autumn season aesthetic. There's a few things they do to try to kind of beef that up, where you got Laurie, carving that pumpkin with Will. Then you get Jonathan, having that party where they're hanging back from Yosemite, right? So there's some things that they do. It's just not enough in my opinion. And another thing that they kind of do that doesn't help kind of flesh out the town and add to that Halloween vibe is the fact that most of the film is set in this academy. So it's you don't really get much of the town and the outside, what's going on with kids that are trick-or-treating and just decorations and stuff like that. Again, I get it from a logical standpoint that, she moved to California to move all the way across the country and change her name to evade Michael. I understand that, but it does pull you out of the experience, at least for me, because it just doesn't feel like Halloween. Moving on to number 12, we've got Halloween Resurrection. It's actually not at the bottom for a change. Now, Resurrection's got a couple things H2O doesn't. It's set in Haddonfield, and you get the Myers house, right? Now, do they utilize those elements to their full potential? No. But you get those elements, and they do help make it feel more like a Halloween film. They do a few things to try to give it that aesthetic with the kids at that party and everything. Overall, it falls pretty flat, just kind of like H2O in terms of the overall tone. They're the most generic Halloween films in the franchise, in my opinion, in terms of the aesthetic. When you get the Haddonfield and just the lore of the town and the people in it, and you have these kind of paper thin characters, and you just don't get that autumn season aesthetic. It doesn't feel like a Halloween film. The film is called Halloween. Like, you need to nail that aesthetic, and these films do not at all. Moving on to number 11, we've got Halloween 2 2009. Really think this film has some elements that do feel like Halloween. It actually feels like it's cold in the film. You get the overall gothic themes with the Halloween party that they go to and the dream sequences that just feel gothic. I really like the tone. I also like the vibes of Laurie working in this record shop. I think that's great. It does have that. Just it could have benefited from a little more, doubling down on that a little more, just because it's so different. But that's also part of what I like about Halloween 2, is that it is so different, right? Moving on to number 10, we've got Rob Zombie's Halloween. I think that there's a lot of good stuff here. The only thing I would say is that it just feels very familiar. It's a remake. I get it. There's some sequences that I would say feel like it's a little too warm. Like when Michael's beating that kid, the Spy Kids kid, and It just feels a little warm. I know that sounds like a really ridiculous nitpick. I think that it's fine. I think overall it's a solid portrayal of autumn in Haddonfield, right? It's just there's not much that stands out with it. Moving on to number 9, we've got Halloween Kills. I think that, there's some great stuff in here. The opening that's set in 78 Haddonfield, absolutely love it. Feels right in line with the original. And then you get, again, with that second installment in this little trilogy, by default, most of it's going to be set at night, and so it's not going to feel as much like autumn because you can't see those vibrant colors with the leaves and the decorations, stuff like that. Here you got Michael. He's really front and center in this movie, and there's pros and cons to that. I think some of the sequences are incredible, like when he's just tearing through that fleet of firemen. Visually, it's incredible. I don't know if that quite nails the Halloween vibe. That's not part of the DNA where he's front and center. He's best served looming in the back where he's the boogeyman. He's not front and center, right? That's what makes him scary. So when he's front and center, it kind of takes away from that, especially when you don't have a rich autumn Halloween season vibe and you're just really focusing on Michael. It kind of falls flat. Moving on to number 8, Halloween 2018. Now, a lot of what I said about Halloween Kills can be applied here. I think there's more here that feels like Halloween. You get more trick-or-treaters, you get more daytime sequences, you get the party sequence with Allison and everything. There's some stuff here. It's just, again, so focused on Michael and Laurie and less on the fact that it's Halloween. Moving on to number 7, we've got Halloween Ends. Now, what makes this kind of the best out of this new Gordon Green trilogy in terms of the overall tone is the fact that Michael's kind of in the background more, and then they really develop the characters. They develop the overall town of Haddonfield, and it does feel more like Halloween. It actually feels like the autumn season. You get some trick-or-treaters. You get Corey watching the kid on Halloween night, right? There's some good stuff here. They're Corey and Allison at the bar. They've got their costumes and everything. With this Gordon Green trilogy, I would say that the overall Halloween aesthetic is a little weak. I think it's underrated how important the overall fall autumn season aesthetic is to an effective Halloween film. Moving on to number 6, we've got Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers. Now, I think this is a solid portrayal of the Halloween season. It's kind of riding off the coattails of 4, so it's utilizing that to its benefit. I think overall it does a pretty good job. Love the Tower Farm sequences. Love Michael chasing Jamie through the fields. That really feels very much like Halloween. You can see their breath outside. Feels cold. There's a few sequences during the day that feel a little too warm. But overall, I think it's pretty effective in terms of the overall tone. Moving on to number 5, we've got Halloween 2, 1981. Absolutely love the overall aesthetic of this film. It benefits from taking place right after the original, and so most of it's at night, but I still do feel like they do a good job of having it feel like Halloween. You get to hear the TV going on, with the news and everything of what happened with Michael. You get the guard watching that horror film as Michael's coming into the hospital. You get the kid with the razor blade. That you really get to see the town more. People walking around in costumes and everything. They really expand on the lore of Haddonfield. And again, those are vital ingredients to an effective Halloween film. And I feel like they really nail it here. Moving on to number 4, we've got Halloween 1978. Now, I absolutely love the overall aesthetic of this film. I don't care that you can see palm trees. Doesn't bother me at all. I see them every time and it still doesn't bother me. I think they do an incredible job of making it feel like Haddonfield, like everyday USA, right? It feels very innocuous. It feels like Haddonfield, Illinois. You get the leaves. Just the overall aesthetic of the film. Obviously you get Michael and he's more held back, and I think that serves the tone. This is the template for what to model a Halloween film off of. Moving on to number 3, we've got Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. Now, this has nothing to do with Michael Myers, but it has everything to do with Halloween. Love the overall lore with Conal Cochran and the runes and everything like that. I think that, you know, you get the shots of the kids in all the different cities trick-or-treating. You know, the whole film centers around these Halloween masks that melt these kids' faces off. I mean, that's incredible, right? You know, you get some sequences where it's raining. I really think that they do a really good job of making it feel like it's Halloween, like it's October, like it's autumn. Overall, I think it's really effective. They do a really good job of making it feel like autumn, like Halloween. Moving on to number 2, we've got Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers. Absolutely love the overall tone of this film. It's you know, again, it benefits from being shot in Utah. It actually was filmed during fall. You get the leaves changing on the trees. You get, obviously, kids trick-or-treating. You know, I think that overall, like the early shots of Haddonfield with the camera coming down, it is absolutely incredible. Just the sequences with Jamie and the farm and Michael stalking her. You know, some of the sequences in the producer's cut where Michael's stalking Kara and you just feel his presence. There's so much of that in the DNA, just feeling his presence looming, where you don't always need to have him front and center, but he's there and he's a part of that. And that is, you know, that's prominent in The Curse of Michael Myers. Absolutely love this film, and when I watch it, it puts me right in the Halloween season. It feels like it's Halloween when I'm watching it. Moving on to number 1, we've got Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. I mean, what cannot be said about this film and how perfectly it encapsulates the Halloween season. Just the opening shots of just the open fields and the Halloween decorations, where you got like the barn and you got the skeleton, and then you got the ghost like just blowing in the wind. Just the sequences of Jamie trick-or-treating with that blue tint. It feels cold. It feels like Halloween. And yes, Michael's more front and center, but he's still held back too. And he feels like the boogeyman. And again, it just feeds right into that aesthetic, and they both coalesce together and really create that perfect DNA. Overall, Halloween 4 has the best overall autumn season vibes. It perfectly encapsulates the autumn season, and that is why it's number 1. What do you guys think? Which film do you think has the best overall autumn season aesthetic? Let me know in the comments. That's it for now. Stay tuned for more. Peace, guys.